Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Ask Carl G special lockdown live webinar seminar. Chat to you, chat to me, all about lockdown, mental strategies for depression and anxiety, confidence to be a splendid little hour, maybe a bit longer, depending on how much you'd care to join in. While the broadcast goes ahead, let's invite you to put as many comments as you wish to into the comment box if you've got questions to ask. If you get to the end of this, if you're watching this on replay and we haven't covered your particular subject or your particular context or your particular personalization for your particular situation, and there's something which isn't that clear, feel free to bob a question in afterwards. I can always go back over the next little while. And going away there. Okay. Lovely. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Hello, Jane and Laura, Michelle and Caris. Oh, hello, Caris. Louise, Nat, hello, hello, hello. Right. Now, some of you, of course, will have heard this before. If you've been to my talks, if you've various downloads that you can get, if you look through my videos, if you go on my page, there's 300 hours of videos, and I have included all of this subject in these videos. But every year I like to do a live, as if we were here. I used to be a hypnotherapist, as if you were here in the hypnotherapist's office. We're having a conversation, and this year particularly more than ever, as we are entering a second turbulent phase of this year with various lockdowns going on, uncertainty absolutely rampant. As I will explain, uncertain times can increase our susceptibility to anxiety and depression, and I'm going to explain why that is. So I teach rider confidence. People have to be confident on their horses. And when people come into the rider confidence classroom and we do our first introductory session, at some point I get on to how you might be wondering what this big white slab is here. At some point I get on to the brain and how it works, and fairly quickly we get onto stress, anxiety, and depression. And the moment those words are uttered, it's like a little golden moment in the course as you hear a sharp intake of breath, because most of the people suffering from rider confidence are also suffering from depression and anxiety, and that's why they've come to the course. And sometimes it's the last thing they expect us to be talking about when we're talking about horses, but nonetheless, that's the way it is. And then we just do a little section, not as deep as I'd like. So I put on a little post on my Facebook page saying, how are you doing in regards to the lockdown? And the torrent of worries and concerns that came in the comments dictated that this event takes place now. So that's why we're here. That's why we're going to talk about it. I used to make my living talking about this. Now it makes up 5 or 10% of what I do. So I don't have to make my living. So I'm more than happy to come and spend an hour or an hour and a bit with you, seeing if my previous life as a hypnotherapist can help you. If it can help you, I'm super pleased. And if it can't, I'm super pleased. There we are. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Get yourselves comfortable. I've got coffee with cream in it. I like coffee with cream in it. And get yourselves a cup of tea. Sit down, relax, turn off any distractions, and we'll get stuck right in. Right, I've been broadcasting for 5 minutes. Anybody who isn't here, and maybe they'll join us in a bit. Okay, lovely. So I studied hypnotherapy at the Clifton practice. I study solution-focused hypnotherapy as opposed to analytical hypnotherapy. Analytical hypnotherapy is more, where do our problems come from? Why am I suffering from depression, anxiety, or what have you? And it's all about finding those initial causes in the thought that if the root of the problem is sorted out, then those symptoms will disappear. Which is a jolly good way and was very popular through the 70s and 80s. Some people find it very popular now. I don't come from that school of thought. I come from the school of thought of solution focus. That is, we're focusing on where we are now and we're focusing on where we want to be, not where we've come from. That makes sense. So instead of looking at repressed memories and troublesome childhoods where the problems are, taking it from where we are now and where do we want to go. Because we don't want to go to a life full of anxiety, stress, and depression. In America, I believe it's called recovery. Here we call it solution-focused hypnotherapy. It's very akin to sports hypnotherapy, and ties in nicely with my thoughts that that's the game. There we are. So let's begin. People come into the hypnotherapist's studio suffering from the majority stress, anxiety, and depression. There is a small amount of lose weight, stop smoking, and some other personalized things such as sports improvement, but the majority, 80%, is stress, anxiety, and depression. And I start off the whole course, and I start off the introduction explaining what's going on in the brain, why we're having these problems, because we know we don't need to have these problems. Not everybody who goes to university goes on to have panic attacks. We know that when things are trotting along quite nicely, we're quite coping, happy little soul. So we know that the decision to have panic attacks is out of our hands and something else is going on. So I've got my whiteboard here. If you've been to my talks, if you've been to the course, you'll recognise this. A whiteboard marker. So let's jump right in with what's going on in our brains that we suffer from depression, anxiety, and stress, and what we can do about it. Get yourselves comfortable. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to start off by drawing a picture of the brain. Here it is. Can you see that? Not anatomically correct or indeed to scale. I'll move this a bit so that you can try not to get the, that's better, not to get the light reflecting off it too much. There we are, that's the brain, believe it or not. It's inside our brains is a section of the brain which is the primitive brain. Sometimes people call it the reptilian brain, sometimes they call it the chimp brain, sometimes they call it the instinctive brain. Just for the sake of calling it something, I'm going to call it the primitive brain. So I'm going to put P for primitive. This is a very instinctive brain. It's got no reason, no logic, no imagination. Has that P come up the right way around? It hasn't, has it? Oh, has it? Hasn't on my screen. If necessary, I'll start writing backwards. Hola, Mexico. Nice of you to join us. Okay. So that, believe it or not, is a P, depending on which way around it is. P for primitive. Also, curiously, P for panic attack, which I find quite appropriate. This has got no reason, no logic, no imagination. It's where the fight and flight responses live. It's where panic attacks live. All those primitive responses. Your primitive brain. It does nothing. It sits quite quietly, scanning for danger all the time. Scan, 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 just in case. But on the whole, it just sits there quietly, not doing anything, allowing you as a species to do whatever it is that you do. In the case of horses, graze nicely on you see them, they're grazing nicely, their ears are going a bit, occasionally they'll lift their heads, have a look around. That's all the primitive brain. Provided there's no danger, it's not going to do anything. We're happy. If danger threatens, or more crucially, the perception of danger threatens, then this primitive brain is trained to respond with a series of survival strategies. The reason why I paused and laughed then is because I believe I'm about to write on the board and it's all going to be backwards. But let's see. Survival strategies. The first survival strategy that it might use is anxiety. Believe it or not, that's anxiety. Okay. Anxiety is a survival strategy, very simple to understand. If you're going through the woods and there are lions and tigers and bears behind every tree and bush, then do be quite close to your panic button. You want to be hyper alert if you're going through enemy territory. Super simple to understand. And it's there as a survival strategy. Another strategy anger is a simple survival strategy. Anger makes you impervious to pain. It makes you stronger than usual, makes you far more likely to win a fight. That's what that's there for. Super survival strategy, anger. Another survival strategy that your primitive brain that evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, primitive brain that does nothing but waits for danger to turn up. It might have a survival strategy of anxiety, it might have a survival strategy of anger, or it might just go for another survival strategy. On the right, I just talk amongst yourselves. Let's just tip the screen in a little bit. Depression. There we are. What is survival strategy of depression? Now then, most people are surprised to learn that depression is a survival strategy until I explain it thus. If we are living in our caves with all primitive conditions going on, maybe there's too many problems outside, maybe there's wildfires and there's wild tribesmen and there's an ice age and there's wild beasties. If the cumulative problems are too much, then it's no good us feeling all positive and going, oh, don't worry, I'll go and catch a rabbit. I'll go out of the cave. I'll go into the ice age. I'll go and catch a rabbit. Bye. That's not going to happen, is it? Because all that happens is I feel all positive. Don't you worry, I'm going to catch a rabbit. Oh, we are. Out I go into the ice age, never seen again. Until 6,000 years later, they dig up my remains and analyze the contents of my stomach. And guess what? There's no rabbit. So my brain knows this. It knows it's a stupid idea to feel all positive in the face of overwhelming negativity, overwhelming problems. So it says, do not run out. So it says to me, you must not feel positive. Feeling positive would be a bad idea at this point. So if you can't feel positive, what are you going to feel? You're going to feel negative. That's why depression is so miserable. That's why it feels so miserable. Because if it felt like a nice warm fug, then you'd be quite happy to go out and do other things. But no, it feels pointless. It feels miserable. You feel that you're failing at everything. I fail at everything. So there's no way that I can go and catch a rabbit in these conditions. Quite clever. Plus, it knows that there's no rabbit coming. So if there's no rabbit coming, then there's no energy, there's no food. So depression is used as a way of keeping down our activity. That's why depression feels so miserable, because you don't feel like getting up. You don't feel like interacting with people. You don't feel like taking care of yourself. You don't feel like taking care of your home. You don't feel like phoning your mum if you live in a cave with a phone. I've gone off my analogy here. You don't feel like doing any of those things. And isn't that exactly what depression feels like? And depressed people are famous for not wanting to take care of their appearance and take care of their physicalness and taking care of their alcohol intake. What's the point? That's what all it is. Lethargy, because there's no rabbit coming, and depression, because don't feel positive, because if you run out into an ice age, that's going to be the end of you. There we are, which is all jolly good while there's an ice age, but not so good whilst we're living in the UK, just trying to get on with our lives. These are survival strategies. If this brain decides that it's under attack, it will use one or all of these survival strategies to make sure that it keeps you safe. Super. This is for attack from lions and tigers and bears and ice ages. It is not attack by emails, telephones, coursework, job pressures, relationship, career, self-esteem. That's not what it meant. But nonetheless, if you feel that you're under attack, these are the only measures that your primitive has got. However, when conditions improve, the depression's supposed to lift, this brain becomes clear again, and we get back to being horses grazing on the hillside or whatever it is that you do as a species. So, why is it with humans that when problems come along and problems go, sometimes, let's say that you've got stressed out at university, or your panic attack started when you moved house, or particularly bad relationship, or when the session's improved, when the ice age has gone, when the problems have subsided, we don't need these survival strategies anymore, and our brain goes back to a nice blank brain, and we're happy. Isn't that right? No. So why, humans, when conditions improve, do we not always go back, but we carry the depression with us? Well, that's because evolution went on. Evolution went on, if you believe that kind of thing. And baboons got bright red bottoms. Giraffes got lovely long necks. We got none of that good stuff. All we got was a vastly augmented intellectual capability, a problem-solving factory. This is the cerebral cortex. It's where the logic, the reason, the problem-solving wonder that is humans comes from. I'm gonna just as I put a P there for primitive, I'm gonna put an I there for intellect. The intellectual, oh, you can't see that on that screen, though. I'll put a bigger I there. I'm saving ink. Oh, crumbs. Okay. Intellectual brain, primitive brain. There we are. This is where reason, logic, imagination, language, it all lives up here to be a problem-solving factory. And it's good. My word, it's good. That is why we are the supremely intelligent beings that have taken over the entire world. Okay. So this is a problem-solving factory. And what I'm going to do is have a little area at the front here, which is your idea of you. Okay, this is where your conscious control is. All this is subconscious. You're working out problems doesn't always have to be something that you sit down and work it out. You know, when you have a good idea and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll do that, or I'll do this. That can be subconscious. Your conscious idea of you is a smaller part at the front of the brain, and this might be 10% of the brain or 20% of the brain. I'm sure you've heard people say you only use 10% of your brain. The smaller percentage, this is your idea of you, and I'm going to draw you here so that you remember. It's going to be absolutely accurate of you there. So you, under your conscious control, the smaller part. Okay, lovely. So this is the way it works. This is a problem-solving factory. This, the conscious brain is like the boss of the factory, sat in your office at the front of the factory there. And then you've got your primitive brain, which is sitting there waiting for like a fire drill. You know, we've got our fire drills, we've got our emergency drills waiting to kick in. So a factory is a really good analogy. Boss, factory floor, primitive brain, just in case there's an attack by lion. This is the way it's supposed to. The boss of the factory says, I've had a great idea of something that I want to do. Here's your problem. It puts into the problem solving factory a design of something that it wants to do. I like to use the term going for a horse riding holiday in Mongolia because A, it's nice and horsey, B, it was my particular actual thing until I actually went to Mongolia last year. But there we are. I wanted to go to Mongolia. This is it. Problem solving factory, the boss says to the factory floor, I want to go to Mongolia and start putting in, you can see that arrow there, arrow, start putting in the order, okay, big arrow, that we want to go to Mongolia. There we are. So, just in the same way that I had to go over and over and over that arrow so that you could see it on the screen. So to get it right into the problem solving factory, you need to really get in exactly what you want. Now, you need to get the order in, to give the order. The more often you think about what it is that you want to do, the more it will go in, and the more detail that you think about, the more it will go in. So when you're going on to your mates down at work or down the pub or down at the gym, going on and on about wanting to go to Mongolia, and they'll go, "Oh, I wish you'd shut up about going to Mongolia. Good grief." Each time it's going into your subconscious. The detail when you're going, "Oh, saw this thing on Mongolia, is brilliant. Oh, the vista, the mountains, the steps, the little ponies. It's going to be brilliant. There's going to be grass and skies and mountains and little kids in big furry hats and goats and chickens and yurts and tiny little ponies. Oh, it's going to be marvelous." The more detail that you put it in, the more it goes in. Beautiful. The more often that you do it, the more often you imagine going to Mongolia, and pretty soon your subconscious problem solving factory is going to start bringing ideas for you to consider as the boss. So those BBC4 programs that you normally never watch, suddenly by coincidence, you'll notice there's one all about Michael Palin going to Mongolia or something. You'll sit at the dentist waiting room, and what a coincidence, there's a National Geographic full of stuff about going to Mongolia. You'll be sitting having your beans on toast, and suddenly, out of nowhere, you'll get an idea. Oh, wow, we could go to Mongolia, of course. Why didn't I speak to Auntie Edna, who works in Abu Dhabi? She gets loads of air miles, and she gets she's really rich because she works in Abu Dhabi, and she's adventuresome. She'd come on, and before you know it, you, Auntie Edna, are in the little ponies, the little kids with hats are all in Mongolia having a wonderful time. This is the way it's supposed to work. So we've all had this experience. You know what I'm talking about. When you've got a car, or you particularly want a car, you see that car absolutely everywhere. When you get a new outfit, you suddenly start seeing that absolutely everywhere. We've all seen this work. This is our subconscious minds going, hey, you want to know about Mongolia? What about Michael Paley's program? What about this National Geographic? What about Auntie Edna? Consider this, consider this, consider this, consider this. We're all used to this. That's the way it's supposed to work. There we are. It's marvellous, really. Great design. Works super. However, it's a very faithful problem-solving factory. And whatever the boss asks the factory floor for, the factory floor will do its very best to get the boss, irrelevant of whether what the boss is asking for is positive or negative. It's not the factory floor's job to tell the boss that they're ordering something that the factory floor doesn't believe they should produce. So if your boss is saying something negative and horsey, not nice and positive, not going around Mongolia, but something negative and horsey, your factory floor will do its best to make sure that you get what you've asked for. But who in their right mind would ask for something negative and horsey? I mean, would we really? Let's have a try. Let's do an impression of somebody thinking of something negative and horsey. So here we go. I'm going to try my best. Let's think. I am rubbish at riding horses. I will always be rubbish at riding horses. Always is always good because it indicates permanence. I will always be bad at riding horses. I will fall off this horse. I will get hurt when I fall off this horse. I don't care, but statistics prove that 99.999% of the time when people fall off, they just get up, rub their bums and say, oh, I'm a bit shocked. That wouldn't happen to me because I'd be the one that got hurt. I'd be the one that got hurt because God hates me and I'm fundamentally unlucky and I'm always the one who always comes a cropper and I'm so unfit and I'm so unflexible. And if anybody was to hurt themselves, it would be me to hurt themselves. That would be typical. And all this sort of self-talk. And then there's other things such as, and I fall off the horse because I'm inflexible, I'm not strong enough, I'm the unlucky one, and all these things just happen to me anyway. I'm the one that hurts myself because I ride like a sack of potatoes. I'm probably hurting the horse. This horse has probably got a kissing spine because of me and dead legs and a dead mouth, and everybody on the yard is watching me ride like a sack of potatoes and they've got no respect for me. They call me all the gear and no idea behind my back, and they just pretend to like me. And I'm hurting the horse, and this horse was a good horse when I got this horse. Now this horse is a terrible horse, and my family are all watching me not enjoy this horse and spending all this money, and I'm not even enjoying it, and they think I'm stupid as well, and on and on and on and on. There we are. If any of that sounds familiar, just think of this. If we think this often enough, and we do, and if we think of it in enough detail, and that was actually quite a lot of detail, and we do, these thoughts will constantly be pushed into our subconscious minds over and over again. The more you think about it, the more it gets pushed in. The more detail that you think about it, the more it gets pushed in. And then your subconscious will start coming back with dreams, ideas, and behaviors to make sure that you get what you want. So when you wake up in the morning, having visualized this future for yourself of disaster and horror stories on horses, you're not going to feel particularly like leaping out of bed and running towards this future. Instead, you're going to be a little bit lethargic about it, and oh, look at that, it's 10 to 8 on. I really should get down the stables. Not I want to get down the stables, but I should get down. I should get down the stables. And there you go. And then instead of getting on with it when you get there, you don't get on with it. You go and see someone across the yard and you're like, I know, I'm not really feeling it today. Then you find that you're late for getting on the horse. Then you don't get on the horse. Then you're like, oh, sorry, horse, I haven't got time for you today. Tell you what, I'll just change the road, throw you out and ride you tomorrow. But of course I won't ride you tomorrow because you'll be even hotter tomorrow. So I'll ride you the next day. And then I've got my instructor come in. They're going to know that I haven't ridden you 3 times a week. And therefore, they're going to gossip with them across there and so on and so on. There we are. Compare that behaviour to somebody who's getting on well with their horses. Maybe they're looking for another competition. They're going to do a little competition in 3 months' time. Now they might be a worse rider than you. But by the time you rock up down the stables going, "Oh, sorry, horse, it's me again. Lucky I can even mount on you with my fat arse," and slagging yourself off or whatever, they're not doing any of that. They're on their 3rd horse. They're going, "Morning, morning." You're doing the same activity, and they're a worse rider than you. You're doing the same. The only difference is their vision of the future is compelling and draws them through, and your vision of the future is negative. But you're doing the same thing. The only difference is their vision of the future is positive, your vision of the future is negative. Wow. Wow. This is how important it is to put in the effort to watch your thoughts. Now, I know what you're going to say. It's like, "Oh, it's all right for you, Carl. You're always saying you've got to think positive." Actually, just between you and me, I've got off the word positive lately. I don't believe in positive thinking, where everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be fine. I believe in helpful thinking and powerful thinking, changing what ifs into if thens. I like that thinking. But we all use the word positive thinking, and I'm sure we all know what I mean. Negative thoughts pop up on their own. I know you don't mean them to. You mean to stay positive and helpful thinking and powerful thinking, but negative thoughts pop up on their own. And I have people saying to me, "Carl, this is all very well. What you're saying is all very well, but I don't mean to think negative. It just pops up on its own, doesn't it? It just pops up on its own. I don't mean it to." But yes, you're quite right. Negative thoughts do pop up on their own. Positive thoughts also pop up on their own. So the stupid thought. Have you ever walked along looking up and suddenly you notice that cloud looks a bit like a poodle? That just popped up on its own. Just popped up on its own. Negative thoughts pop up on their own. Positive thoughts pop up on their own. No one ever went, "Well, give me 5 minutes. I've just got to go and have a positive thought." No, you just have a good idea, and that's that. It's like, "Oh, I had this idea. We could. They just pop up on their own." This is what our minds are supposed to do. They're supposed to constantly offer us ideas about the world. What's on the menu of life? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought that this cloud looks a little bit like a poodle? Have you thought that you might fall off your horse? Have you thought that you might do well at this competition? Have you thought this? It's supposed to do that, just offer you things. Whether you put them, your contribution comes from whether you put the mental effort into focusing on those things or not. Now, in the spirit of giving an example, if we just choose the stupid one, the poodle, you would probably not give that a lot of your attention because it's probably not worth it. Not many people have then completely thought, what's this personal meaning for me and my life that cloud looks like a poodle? Sat there going, "Whoa, poodliness. What could that mean?" Because it's just nonsense. Similarly, if a negative thought is of no value to you, there's nothing you can learn or take action to prevent. If you're just worrying that everybody's going to laugh at you and call you all the gear and no idea, then you've got no control over that. There is nothing you can do. If you're loading a horse into a trailer and you're like, "Oh, that breast bar's a bit low, it could get over that," then that is abuse. So they're both negative thoughts, but one of them is worth putting my energy. Oh, all right. What can we do about this breast bar? I was like, oh well, there's other settings. Oh, okay. Oh, how do you get these little snap clips off and you alter the height of the breast bar? That's what negative thinking is for, to consider something and then not consider it. If you put your mental focus onto any of these thoughts, that's where it is your choice. So you say, oh, I can't help thinking negative. Just remember the little story that I'm going to share with you now. I can't help thinking negative, but it's whether you then focus on that negative, which is your choice. However, I know that if you've spent 20 years talking in cliches, if anyone's going to get hurt, I'm going to get hurt. Let's say you've said that for 20 years. Going up to the horse and you're apologizing to it, going, sorry, horse, me again. You must hate me. If anyone's going to get hurt, I'll get hurt. I'm surprised I can even mount on this horse with my fat ass, or whatever it is that you said about yourself for the last 20 years. If you just listen to what I said and said, oh, I'm going to take on what Carl says, and I'm going to make the effort to think more positive about things, more helpful, more powerful. And you approach your horse tomorrow and you start to say that cliche, sorry, horse, it's me. And then you think, hang on a minute, I'm going to change that. I'm going to think of something else to say that's more positive. Right then, chaps, what can we think that's more positive? I could say something along the lines of horses are fun. Come on, horse. Right, let's go and like I say, let's go and have some fun and see what we can achieve today. That's a more positive thing to say, isn't it? Let's go have some fun, see what we can achieve today. Is more positive than saying, sorry, horse, me again. Well, I can even get on you with my fat ass. And if anyone's going to get hurt, I'll get hurt. Oh, what was it? Genuinely, what was it? Let's go and have some fun and see what we can achieve today. Did you see the effort it took me to remember that then? I had genuinely forgot it because I'd only made it up. In fact, it took me a load of effort to make it up. Let's have fun, see what we can achieve today. You saw me going through the mental processes. That was actually quite a lot of work. Obviously, especially when we're feeling negative, it's going to be easier to say, my fat ass, I'm going to get hurt, you must hate me, than it is to stop, think of something new, and then remember it for next time. It's a lot more work. This is the key. So this is the story I was laughing about a minute ago that I'd like to share with you. So I finished my classroom session talking all about this and more, and I've been talking for an hour and a bit, and it was time to get on the horses. And we all, I said, right, okay, we're going to get on the horses. Everybody got their hats, everybody got their riding kits, super. We're going to go out to the arena, we're going to do some new stuff. It's going to be great. So quick toilet break, drink of water, grab a chocolate biscuit if you need to, and we'll see you outside. And as usual, because I've been talking for an hour, we're all drinking tea and coffee, everyone usually goes, oh, good, I'm busting for the toilet. Oh, good, good, good. And this lady said, oh, good, I'm busting for the toilet because I'm old and decrepit. And I'd just been talking about the necessity for positive thinking. And as soon as I finished, said, I'm old and decrepit. So I said, hey, you can't say I'm old and decrepit. I mean, I've just been talking about this. Can't we think of something new? I know you've been saying that for years. I bet we can think of something new. And she said, I know, you're right. Yeah, yeah. I'm so stupid. I said, hey, going around saying I'm so stupid to say that I'm old and decrepit. We have to think of something new. That I know, I've always been like this. There we go again. There we go. As you can guess, this conversation went on quite a long time. And we got into a serious conversation. I said, look, these cliches that you've been saying, you have to make the decision to stop. And look, right now, this moment would be a good time to make this decision. At some point, you have to agree to put in the work. And you saw how much work it was to put in the work to say, that's not helping me. That's not helpful. That's not powerful. What can I think of instead? You got to put in that work. And she said, I know. I've been listening to everything you say, and it's absolutely right. I know it. In fact, I knew it before I even came. I spent 20 years fighting depression. I've been depressed for 20 years, and I know that this is what I need to do. And then she took a deep breath and she went, who can be bothered? And there we have it. Who can be bothered? Who can be bothered to put in the effort to find new ways of thinking about yourself, new ways of thinking about your situation, new ways of thinking about the world, new ways of thinking about the people you meet? Who can be bothered? Because, as we started off with saying, there is a huge element of lethargy in depression, because we know that we're not going to run out into an ice age and catch a rabbit. Who can be bothered? But that's the key. Who can be bothered to go down the gym and keep themselves fit? Who can be bothered to exercise their horses and get it well trained? Who can be bothered to speak kindly about themselves? Who can be bothered is the people who can be bothered. Because people say to me, Carl, you wake up every day feeling all positive and happy and smiling, do you? No, of course I don't. I wake up every day knowing that I've got that work to do if I want to avoid a life of anxiety, anger, and depression. And I do want to avoid a life of anxiety, anger, and depression. And I think it's worth investing that time in myself, in my mental attitude, to stop that when I make a mistake, to not take that personally and make a personal meaning out of it. If I mess something up, it's because I've made a mistake. It's not because I'm stupid. If this broadcast fails because of some mistake that I've made with the computer or something, or I haven't paid the correct subscription to Facebook Live, or I made a mistake, I can say that was a stupid thing to do. But it's not, I'm so stupid, and make it personal. It does take work. The work is to put a bouncer on the door of your mind that is going to go to the effort of stopping that negative thought and dismissing it, or stopping that negative thought, and if it won't dismiss, thinking of the opposite and taking that in as a positive, just as I did with, sorry, horse, it's me again. I always fall off and you hate me. Stop, put the bouncer on the door of your mind, turn it around and go, what's the opposite of falling off and having the horse hate you? It's having fun and achieving things. Put that effort in. Put a bounce on the door of your mind. And you may say, oh, it feels all artificial and it feels all weird. And yes, you're right. If you've got 20, 30 years of depressive thinking behind you, it will feel weird at first. If you go to live in the land of positive thinking, or helpful thinking, powerful thinking, not delusional thinking, just feel good and the horse will be fine. But powerful thinking, such as I want this horse to be fine, therefore I have to get up at 6:30 every morning and make sure that I'm down there to do at least 20 minutes on the long reins, because I know that I'm frightened of being on the saddle, or whatever it is. Powerful and helpful thinking, we already have that in every other part of our lives. When you drive your car, when you cross the road, when you ride a bicycle, the little disasters that you're constantly batting away at work, when someone's done something wrong. This is what you do. You simply fix the problem. You don't take it personally. You just fix the problem. If I can't think what you do at work, if the tire bursts on your car, that's not your personal problem, that you are utterly useless. You've got a hole in your tire. People still do it, even with the car tire. They go, oh, this always happens to me. It doesn't always happen to you. It's just your turn for life to happen normally. And what you need to do is get on the phone, call the AA, start the process of fixing it, which is work. It's far easier to just sit on the curb going, oh, woe is me. We've already got the neural pathways to deal with a broken tire or something at work. We've already got the neural pathways. When we're on Facebook, which possibly you are now, when you're flicking through Facebook, it offers you all the different things that you might be interested in that happen around the world. Doesn't it? Just like your brain should. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? We are perfectly able to go flicking through our Facebook, and then something will come up where someone's being horrible with somebody else in some far-flung country of the world, or someone's arguing. People like to put up Facebooks of people arguing or getting arrested and arguing, or a neighbour shouting. And quite honestly, I watched a load of that. It'd bring me down. When someone goes, look what my neighbour did about our fences, and I can see that's what it is. Oh, I'm a bit upset. Watch too much of that, and you get upset. And then you go past the negative ones, and you go past the superfluous ones. That, oh yeah, that cloud did look a bit like a poodle. It's not really something for Facebook. What people often on their dinner, what we had for dinner last night, you just slide for them. And then you find something that's really helpful and useful, and an article that you want to see. Cat playing the piano. I love that. Watch this. Depending on your personal choice. We already have that ability from every other area of our life. And then as soon as it comes to our own personal relationships with our horse, our relationship with our families, our relationship with our career, or our relationship with ourselves, we suddenly decide that we haven't got this ability, which we clearly have. So yeah, people say, are you happy all the time? No. Every morning I wake up knowing that I've got work to do if I want to avoid a life of anger, anxiety, and start practicing. Start deliberately making those choices, what to allow into your mind, and feed with your focus. That's the key. We can't help negative thoughts popping up, but you can decide how much you're going to feed with your focus the negative thoughts. That's where the work does come in. So there we go. This is how important it is to focus on the positive, helpful, powerful. Now, isn't that interesting? What do you do? That's interesting, isn't it? This is almost getting analytical. Why does our mind work like this? It's a little bit like, where did these problems come from? I'm going to be analytical. It came from when I was a kid. It came from a terrible relationship. It came from when I went to university. It came from when I moved house. It came from when the dog died. That's all very well, but who cares? Who cares? I don't want to know why my car doesn't work right. I want to know when I'm going to Alton Towers. I want to know how to fix it. I don't care why. I just want it fixed. And that's the beauty of solution-focused hypnotherapy. So here's a couple of tips to help us fix things. So first of all, Great question coming up. What is the opposite of success? Right. It's a trick question. I'm waiting for people to write failure. And what's the opposite of success? Is that not leaving enough room on the board? The opposite of success is learning. You either succeed at how to do something or you learn how not to do it. Either succeed at something or you learn how not to do it. There's a famous anecdote about the invention of the light bulb, Edison, who was asked by a colleague, how do you feel having failed 1,000 times to invent the light bulb? And he said, I haven't failed once. I found 1,000 ways in which it doesn't work. And I'm not going to do those again. That simple. The opposite of success is learning. Another crucial thing, especially with horses, well, no, it's not especially with horses, is with our life. Hi, I've just noticed that we're losing staff. Oh, hello, there we are. So where did we get up to? I can see that we've lost a bit of internet there. Yeah, I've got someone saying that they're finding it difficult to avoid negative thoughts at the moment that Wales goes into full lockdown. Yes, correct. It is more difficult, but even more, it's even more crucial. Yes, you're quite right. No one's monitoring this. It's only when the internet went down that I realised. And thank you to uh, uh, all of you who's. Oh, we can't hear. When you change the size of the board, the sound is lost. Look at that. Um, Back to success, please. There we are. Okay, so I'm just going to check the old internet there. 1 second. Okay, how do I interweb now? I'll be back in a second, folks. There we are. We should be good now. Thank you, everybody. That was a brief commercial break while, while I sorted out the internet. So, as requested, I'm going to go back to where we were, which was very appropriately the opposite of success is learning. And that's a great example. At that time, the internet was failing, and I've learned to check my comments more frequently. I realised everyone was getting, we can't hear you. Okay then, guys, is this working now? Good idea. He's gone fixed internet, correct. So, guys, stick me a quick comment and I'll keep going from what I just did. The opposite of success is learning. And maybe I'll learn to look at my comments a bit more. And it's that simple. In fact, there's a bit of me that's really chuffed that that just happened. I don't have to take it personally. Oh, God, I'm really with that because I should have got somebody in to monitor the comments. There you are. You do the best that you can with the tools that you got. And hopefully, are we all back? There we are, all good now. Simple. Simple. The opposite of success is learning. And there's a little real life. Okay. So there's a really good anecdote about Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, who was asked 1,000 times he had not invented the light bulb. How did he feel having failed 1,000 times? He said, I haven't failed once. What I've done is learnt 1,000 ways in which it doesn't succeed. There we are. Let me just bob that over so I can see your comments. Yeah. Let me know if it's still disappearing. Okay. The other thing that will help us to get over this and what we need is to be aware of the bite sizes that we do. If you can jump over an ankle high pole and you can't jump over a shoulder high pole, then you simply haven't done the little bits in between. Bite sizes are so important, but we're so much harsher to ourselves than we are to anybody that we'd be giving advice to, that we make our bite sizes far too big. This bite sizes is probably the reason why I've had all the success that I've enjoyed on my horses. I've really, really enjoyed my horses. I'm having a great time. It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart when people say that they're not having a nice time on their horses because I'm having a great time. But there was a time when I couldn't ride a horse. If you got my emails, when you join my download I've got a free download. Oh look, I've gone into an advert. I've got a free download. The three main worries of riders is bolting, bucking, and rearing. So I've got a download that you can get, and that automatically puts you onto my email list. And the first emails that you get is a little story of when I first started riding horses. I couldn't ride. I was frightened, just like everybody else. I was worried the horse was going to do this. I was worried the horse was going to do that. And there you go. Bit by bit, bite size by bite size, I worked out this, that, and the other. But I am not a brave person, and I know I'm not a brave person. So there was never any count of pulling on your brave pants. And those of you who are out there frightened of your horses, now, if you're going out hacking and jumping and everything while you're terrified, you're way, way braver than I am. Way braver. But I am trained. How do you get trained if you're not brave? because being brave doesn't get you anywhere. If you can jump over an ankle high jump and you can't jump over a waist high jump, and you simply keep pulling on your brave pants and throwing yourself at it, then pretty soon you're going to be jumping it and coming to me saying, I don't understand, I'm jumping this waist high jump and I'm still frightened, because you're not trained. You think you're getting through it just by the skin of your teeth over and over and over again. So bite sizes are massively important. After you've done your ankle high jumps, you need to do a course of ankle high jumps. And maybe you need to do those for a month before you introduce one jump that's a tiny bit higher. Bite sizes are so important, and here's why. With the board, the left and center. You need to see the whiteboard. I am interested. Let me just figure out what you're saying. Oh, Jenny Lee, I am going to get to that comment. Sorry, I've got caught in reading the comments. We can't hear you when you write. All right, then I'm going to have to make sure that I don't talk like that, but I keep talking in front of me. Okay. I genuinely don't think that putting the board to the left or the right is going to make any difference to anything. There you go. So when you're choosing your bite sizes, you have your primitive mind here, that is where fear, fight and flight, and panic attacks live, has the processing power of a 7-year-old. And I don't care if you're 7, 77, or 107, you have the processing power of a 7-year-old. So when you're choosing your bite sizes, you have to choose them at a level that the 7-year-old you could cope with. So if you can jump 3 ankle high jumps, the next thing to do for your 7-year-old is possibly to introduce a 4th ankle high jump and continue to jump a little course of those for a month or so before you introduce one jump that's a little bit higher. What you don't do is what most people do for themselves. If you used to be able to jump waist high jumps, and now you can't jump waist high jumps because you're frightened, because something happened to you, maybe you had an incident and now you're frightened. What you wouldn't do to a 7-year-old is turn around and say to the 7-year-old, you used to be able to do it, why don't you do it now? Everybody's laughing at you, you're absolutely rubbish, everybody hates you and they call you all the gear and no idea, you're standing there looking at the jump, get out and jump it. Well, I don't teach children, but I don't think that's how you're supposed to speak to them anyway. So your bite sizes need to be capable with a 7-year-old. I had a true story. Where I'd done a course and a talk, and somebody said, I can't jump. I used to be able to jump and I can't jump now. And I said, have you done your bite sizes? And she said, oh, yes. And it just didn't make sense. It just didn't make sense. There is no way that you could get used to, in bite sizes that a 7-year-old could deal with, that you wouldn't be progressive. I said, oh yes, I've done my bite sizes. Have you put the jumps at their very lowest? Yes. And you're still frightened? Yes. Have you laid the jumps on the floor and walked over them? Yeah, right, laughed and said, no, I haven't done that. And there we are. A 7-year-old could do that. The 7-year-old her could do that. And so we spoke a bit about breaking things down into tiny, tiny bite sizes. And those of you that have been on the Rider Confidence course, you will know that what we do here is so small that over the last, when did I start getting riding lessons? I was 36. What was that, 2004? Over those years, I went from not being able to ride to doing my show. And if you've seen my show, it's the most incredible show. I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. Everyone's like, ooh, aren't you brave? No, I'm not brave, I'm trained. Bite sizes are so important. It doesn't matter how small the bite sizes are that you take, you will end up getting to your goal if you go in those little steps. You will end up getting to your goal. It's inevitable. You can't help but get to your goal if you take the steps that go to your goal. Which brings us to the next point that's going to help us. Go to the other side of the board. Your goal. What is your goal? Why are you on horses in the first place? It's goals that pull you through. It's the goals that pull you through. Goals pull you past mishaps. Goals pull, and by mishaps, there's mishaps such as winter and rain. Your goal, if you've got a goal that you want to do, why are you on the horse in the first place? If you have to think back to when you first rode horses, then you may have to think back to the 1988 calendar of Frisian horses on the beach. But there was a reason, there was a time when you didn't think that the pinnacle of riding horses, when you were first getting to to save up for your horse and you're working at the spa for £1 an hour and they said, why do you want to ride a horse? And you're saying, so that every 6 weeks I can go around the lanes going, I hope I don't die, I hope I don't die, I hope I don't die. No, it wasn't like that. Whatever it was, the goal that it was, maybe you'd watched too much Black Beauty, maybe you'd watched Hidalgo and Seabiscuit back to back, maybe galloping on the beach, maybe getting rosettes and pinning them all over your bedroom. Maybe you'd been reading the William Fox Pitt magazine. I don't know, reading his book, Charlotte Dujardin's book. Whatever it was, whatever that goal was, if you're not progressing in the bite sizes, you've lost that goal somewhere. Now, you might have lost that goal from everybody around you speaking negative about horses, which is a major part of my philosophy and my page and everything else. You may have had incidents and accidents, and we had a little comment from Penny. There's Penny's. Oh no, from Jenny, sorry, who's had an accident there, and that would have taken your goal away. And it's the goals, and you forget your goals. If you imagine two people are wanting to jump their horses around badminton, and then a third person doesn't want to do that, but is quite happily going on their horse and riding, and then an accident befalls all of them, they all break their wrists on their horses. The two people who want to jump around badminton will be like, oh no, I'm put 6 weeks back now, I'm never going to get there, how am I going to do this? Perhaps I better go to adult gymnastics and learn to tumble, maybe I better go to Carl's course, little product placement there, maybe I'd better. But the person who hasn't got a goal will just sit there and go, wow, hurts. There's no reason to pull forward. Goals pull you forwards. Now, when we do I don't know if you've seen any of the rider confidence page for my rider confidence course, but one of the main sections that worries people is rearing, the rearing section. People are frightened of rearing. They've come to rear on our stunt horses, and there we go. So when it comes to the rearing, they're all very frightened, but they're aware that they're going to get a smashing photo that they're going to be able to put on their Facebook page, and most people want the photo. And you'll find that most people will push themselves just a little bit more in the bite sizes that we've arranged. So if your bite size is the right size to something a 7-year-old can cope with, that's when you can take those little steps out of your comfort zone. So they know that it's safe because it's on trained horses and it's under our supervision. But the thing that draws them past the mishap and the pain of their own fear is thinking, No, I'd really like that photo. And what happens when people are absolutely petrified, is we get them on the horse and we say, now you don't have to do this because I can teach you what to do in the event of the horse rearing without the horse rearing. If you just want the experience of the horse rearing, we can also provide that so that you can learn that you can continue to think through these situations. And inevitably, once you've watched 5 people get a lovely photo and making a big fuss about it as well, everyone's laughing. It's a very funny moment of the day. That desire, people are like, no, this is what I've come to do. This is what I'm going to do. Now, you don't have to do it. You can learn the techniques of what to do on a rearing horse without being on a rearing horse. What do you think happens? What do you think is the conclusion of this story? Of course, they're drawn past for the goal of having that thing. Once they've done that, I turn around and say, that is the power of having a goal. If your goal is to gallop on the beach and you've lost that goal through various mishaps such as winter, not training your horse, as well as incidents, accidents, things you've heard about, things you've read about, things you've imagined over and over again, as well as things that have happened. Well, once you've lost that goal, why go out and train in winter? Why learn? Why learn that it's safe to ride in the rain and it's safe to ride in the wind? Why learn that in bite sizes? There's absolutely no reason. Now, if you really, really want to gallop on the beach and you've arranged something special and you're going to have your photo taken or whatever, would you be out riding in the rain? Of course you would. You've hired a photographer for £800 for the day and they're going to do a lovely collage of you and your horse on the beach. Would you start learning how to gallop on the beach, how to go on the beach, how to get over the agoraphobia? First of all, you'd have to learn how to trot, and in those bite sizes, walk on the beach first, bite size, bite size, bite size. Your goals pull you through. And I've got a big section in all of my talks and courses and everything that you can buy about goals. Okay. Oh, have a quick look at the comments. See, I've learned success and learning. Okay, lovely. Okay, no one's quite saying this is. Oh, earbud, says Laurel. Good idea. Beautiful. Go back, no sound. That was. I think it's working now. Anyway, let me know. Okay, I'm going to stay near the microphone. And what's this? So, I had a question just then from Jenny saying, what did it say? I'm going to have to go back and have a look. Now, this is quite a good question, this. I like this. Jenny Lee, Carl, what if you have been the one? What if you have broken ribs, collarbone, punctured a lung? What you focus on, as we started off, if you could hear me before the internet, what you focus on is what you are asking your subconscious mind to go for. Okay? If I'm focusing on a horse riding holiday in Mongolia, a horse riding holiday in Mongolia, a horse riding holiday in Mongolia, oh, it's going to be fantastic. There's going to be mountains, yurts, kids with big hats, everything and everything. Then that's what's going to happen. Okay? Oh, I need to put my P for primitive there. The more often you say it and the more detail you say it, the more it will go in. When your subconscious hears it enough, then it will make sure you have the behaviors and all the necessary dreams, ideas, or inspirations to get what you want. Just going to look at the wording of your question there, Jenny. Would you say this was in detail? What if you have broken ribs, collarbone, punctured a lung. Now, these things did happen, but the detail in which you do. Absolutely, you made it absolutely clear that you've said that quite a lot. That's played on your mind quite a lot. Now, let me describe the difference. I get emails from people like yourself who say, I used to be confident, and now this happened, this happened, this happened. And now I get filled with pictures of horror, and my heart goes beating really fast, and my hands get clammy, and there's a whole novel in describing what's happened to you and how you are now. That's nothing but negativity. And the positive half was I used to be confident. Now, equally, I don't, but I could get emails that say, Carl, I used to be confident. I used to be able to go absolutely anywhere. I used to really enjoy my horse, and used to have all the fun that you could possibly have. I used to achieve this. I used to achieve this. I used to achieve this. Then I had an accident and lost my confidence. Can you help? Where the novel is the focus of what you do want. It is interesting. It is interesting. How you present it to yourself and the people. Obviously, you want to get over the seriousness of the situation, but you can get over that without having to absolutely paint a picture of how horrific it is. That's point one. Point two, but in fact, point one is just a little throwaway. So there you go. If you've had an accident so that you are the one, like you say, it's still the people around you who will make sure that you are focused on that detail. It's absolutely crazy, but you could do the same injury. I had one lady phone up and she said, I can't come into the rider confidence because I've busted in my shoulder. I've got to have reconstructive surgery. The doctor says that I'm not to even get on a horse for 8 months, so I'm not coming to the rider conference. And I thought, fair enough. He said, I did it walking into a door, which was funny, really. The amount of times that I've ridden my horse and been worried about injuries, and the biggest injury I've ever done to myself was walking into a door. At which point, I turned around and said to her, are you now afraid of doors? Do you know what? She wasn't. And since then, I've had the same conversation come from people who've fallen out of bed. And do you know what? They weren't afraid of beds. You could do the exact same injury driving your car, crossing the road, riding a bicycle. And if you did the exact same injury driving your car, the attitude of everybody around you would be, I was unfortunate. Have they pinned you yet? Have they taken the pins out yet? Are you fixed yet? Are you recovered yet? Are you driving again yet? Are you back at work yet? The attitude of everybody around you will be that you're going to get fixed, you're going to get better, you're going to get back in your car or new car, and you're going to go back to work. Do the exact same injury on a horse, and the attitude of everybody around you will be that you now have a mental problem, a psychological disability that will require therapy if you're to carry on and ever recover. Excessively long faces, excessive sympathy. People will, I've even seen it where somebody had fallen off a horse and done their wrist in. Years ago, someone else said, are we going to go for a ride? And they spoke across her and said, she won't go. She's got baggage because she fell off and broke her wrist. Other people around you will emphasize that. If you take the attitude, yes, that was unfortunate. It was unpleasant, but worse things happen on the hockey pitch. They will look at you Like you don't understand. They'll look at you like you're stupid. The people around you, if you show any signs of moving on from your incident, accident, the people around you will act as if you don't understand. No, you don't understand. It could have been so much worse. You could have been dragged. You could have. You do the same injury in the shower, and people will not. Huh? You think that showering's for you? Don't you think it's time you? Don't you think it's time you hung up your soap? How are you going to feel when you touch that frosted door? It's still down to this thing. What are you going to focus on? Yes, I'm sorry that you had an accident. Bad luck happens in all kinds of things. Plenty of people have slipped down cliffs and fallen off things and things. They don't carry the same baggage. And if you are carrying the same baggage, chances are is because the people around you aren't going to let you stop. If you let people know and then we get caught in the stories, oh my God. So, Jenny, I'd like you to look back and just consider if those injuries had happened. Let's say you went down West Bay in Dorset and fell down, the bit of cliff gave way and you fell down and did exactly the same injuries. Would we be carrying the same baggage? And if not, then the way to get, of course, you're going to have a knock to your confidence. I mean, of course. And then you've got to take notice of your 7-year-old and just become trained so that you can become trained on small heights near the sea until you can quite confidently walk on the cliffs, having taken the precautions that this time you're going to stick to the path that the council says, or whatever the equivalent of that. But it's the people around you who will emphasize how much more dangerous, because they're horse riders and they're reflecting their own problems. Okay, so moving on. I've actually got a lesson at 4:30. There is I might cut it quick, so I'm going to have to move on and get on to the last section, the stress bucket. In our primitive brains there is a mechanism for dealing with stress that can be represented by a bucket. Some people have got big stress buckets and some people have got little stress buckets. Into this bucket goes all the stresses of the day. Let's make up some stresses. So, horse treads on your foot. So you shout and swear in front of the kids, and then have an argument with your partner. And then the car breaks down. Let's make it a day from hell. Then the car breaks down. Then you have to get the bus into work. Bus is late. After work, you go to the shops where they've ordered something and they haven't got the thing. But the salesman is very persuasive and persuades you to get a different thing that costs more money. When you get home, you find that this different thing isn't compatible with the thing that you got at home and you've wasted your money. They have another argument with your partner. There we are. Stresses of the day, real stresses of the day go in there. Little insight into my home life there. So, add to these stresses, imaginary stresses. We had some imaginary stresses earlier. We were stressing about our horse. I'll stick with horsey because most people are, but equally they can be imaginary stresses about what if on lockdown and such like, or what if with your relationship, what if with your career, what if your self-esteem. But we had horsey ones earlier, and so I'll just stick to those. What was it earlier we were saying? We were saying, I'm a rubbish rider. I'll always be a rubbish rider. If anyone was to fall from the horse and hurt themselves, it would be me because I'm I'm fundamentally unlucky and God hates me and everybody on the yard calls me all the gear and no idea. And I'm hurting this horse. I'm giving it kissing spine by being so inflexible. This was a good horse when I got this horse. Now I'm ruining it. What else was there? My family hate me for wasting all this money. The instructor hates me because I haven't been able to ride it 3 times a week. Let's stop there. And if you've got this depressed way of looking at the world, you'll be thinking the same thing about your career, self-esteem, uh, your relationship. That's what I was looking for. Not just the relationship with your partner, but all your relationships with everybody. You'll be thinking the same about, oh, what did they mean when they said this, and all stuff like that. You know, if you've got this way of speaking. So we've got plenty of imaginary stresses from our horse riding, from our relationships, from our visualization of our self-esteem and our career, and lockdown, and worries about the future, and worries about our money, and so on and so on. These are nonetheless imaginary. They're imaginary. What you're going to do about it is real. What you're going to do about it is real. Okay, but for the moment, these are imaginary. They've all come from your imagination. Now, your imagination came from your intellectual mind, designed to solve problems, designed to introduce you to possibilities in the world. Possibly the breast bar of the horse is set too low and it can step over it, so you can raise it up again. Things like what people are saying about you in the yard, you can do nothing about. So that is a pointless thing to be worrying about. And just like you can get rid of horrible things on Facebook, so you can, if you put in the work, think of something positive. So you can't control what people say. So what's a positive version of that? Well, if you're down the stable, probably ride your horse in a set of bite sizes according to some lesson plans. There we are. Anyway, when your stress bucket goes up like that, obviously you're getting more and more stressed. This is the way it works. Through the night, you've got REM sleep, you've got sleep patterns, and those sleep patterns are there to get rid of those stresses. You have 20 minutes of REM where your eyes are vibrating and you're dreaming and following thought patterns. And that is the process of these stresses being taken out. It's very energy intensive, this process. The emotion taken off and being stored in the back of your mind as a narrative memory. So you can have this day from hell, and the next day you can tell your friend about it without bursting into tears. Does that make sense? It takes the emotion off, but it doesn't disappear. It just takes the emotion off. You have a period of REM, then a period of recuperative sleep, then a period of REM, then a period of recuperative sleep. By the time the morning comes, you should have had enough of these sleep cycles that your primitive mind is, your stress bucket in your primitive mind is empty. That's the way it's supposed to be. But if you put in these stresses again, and you fill it full of these imaginary stresses, and the imaginary stresses from your horse and your relationships, and the imaginary stresses about what people are saying about you in the yard, and the imaginary stresses about your self-esteem, your career, and worries about lockdown and everything else, and your living situations, and you can see that you've artificially filled your bucket. And if we then sit through the night and we've got our 6 or 7 sleep cycles, we'll get rid of those stresses until we wake up in the morning, but there's a surplus left. Does that make sense? There's a surplus left. The next day, if you do the same again, and then have REM sleep, there'll be even more of a surplus. As the days go into weeks and the weeks go into months and the months go into years, eventually your stress bucket will fill right to the top. What do you do then? You stop filling it full of imaginary fears? No, you keep going. Eventually it'll overflow. And that is where you get a free flowing anxiety flowing around your brain. And that's where panic attacks come from. That's where phobias come from. That's where things you could previously do, like getting on aeroplanes and normal stuff, suddenly you can't. There we go. There we go. This is allowing imaginary stresses into your brain without doing the work. Find a new way of thinking. There we go. However, this is a perfectly normal thing to happen. This happens when kids are at school doing their exams. Suddenly, oh, you've got all the stresses of relationships, self-esteem, your career, your future, the exams, oh. And then you respond with, oh, anger, anxiety, and depression. And teenagers are famous for anger, anxiety, and depression, aren't they? Yeah, there you go. Another time that this happens, of course, is when you have kids. And the amount of time I hear people say, I used to be able to ride horses, I used to be able to do absolutely anything, and then I had kids, and suddenly I can't. This happened, and then we allowed it to carry on. So what's the solution? As I said before, we don't care about understanding where it comes from. We just want to find the solution. The solution to emptying your stress bucket is REM sleep. REM will get rid of some of those stresses. The more REM you can have. Now, it's unfortunate that the more stressed that you get, the less your sleep patterns start being dependable. You start worrying more, waking up earlier, going to bed later. Chances are your alcohol intake changes, your caffeine intake changes. You don't necessarily make the good decisions that you need to make because you're feeling stressed, which just makes it worse. If you're in this situation, then you need to find other ways of getting the REM that you need. And one of the greatest ways that you can do that is with hypnosis and meditation. Hypnosis sessions, there's a million on the internet to do with stress, relaxation. Find the time to do them. If you can sort out your sleep patterns a bit better, then do. Don't stay up late. Don't drink caffeine just before bed. Don't drink alcohol, which interferes with the deep sleep cycle. And then boom, you're awake at 4 o'clock in the morning worrying again. If you can do that and take it, go to sleep at the same time, wake up at the same time. When you wake up, don't get in the middle of the night, don't get up and go downstairs and make a cup of tea and sit and watch the telly or whatever it is that you do. Have some headphones by the bed and a sleep hypnosis ready to go. Go to bed at the same right time, get up at the right time, sort out your sleep patterns as best you can. If that is still a problematic, which I understand it is, then we can also help with sessions of hypnosis that you can do at lunchtime or at tea time. You've got meditation that also produces your REM. REM is the key to getting rid of the stresses. REM is the key to getting rid of stresses. So there we are. Yeah, that's all very well. All very well, getting rid of these stresses is all very well, but the key is to put in the work to find and use the new way of thinking so that as those stresses get taken away, you are not artificially filling them with more stresses that are straight out of your imagination. The way to do that is to stop, put the effort in to finding a new way to think of something more positive, and it's putting that effort in find that positive wave, which is the key. If you can't be bothered, can't be bothered. The last thing I want to say is that our primitive mind and our intellectual mind is on a seesaw. You're either under the influence of your intellectual mind or your primitive mind. So it's for survival reasons, it makes sense. Your primitive mind, your primitive mind is at the fore and you're in a complete blind panic, or you're really angry, do you make good or bad decisions with your intellectual brain? You make terrible decisions, don't you? If you're really angry, you make terrible decisions and you're going, oh God, and then I said that to him and it made it even worse. If you're going to swap it around, when your intellectual mind is up at the fore, then your primitive mind is suppressed, such as driving across a busy roundabout that you might be really scared of. It's irrelevant to adrenaline. You might be really worried about this roundabout, but you drive across it because you must. When your primitive comes up, when your intellectual comes up to the fore, your primitive is suppressed. And however much you may hate that roundabout, or you may hate that journey, or you may hate that car, nobody has given in to their primitive mind and simply got out the car and walked off away across the roundabout, leaving their car to coast across with the driver's door open. Irrelevant of adrenaline. You get across the roundabout and you may have to pull into a lay-by and spend 5 minutes getting over that horrible experience, but you do it because you must, and you don't make stupid decisions. You get yourself out of the situation, go and have a cup of coffee and feel better. Irrelevant of adrenaline. Confidence is not the absence of adrenaline. I've gone on to the confidence talk now. So there we go. That's the way that your brains work. If you put the effort in to finding new ways of talking about yourself, new ways of thinking about your relationships, it's not talking about yourself, your feeling, how much you think this is going to affect you, turning this into a personal thing. It's not the things that happen in your life. Mortgages happen to everybody. Lockdowns happening to everybody. Relationships happen to everyone. Breakups happen to everyone. It's not the things that happen. It's whether you're then going to use your imagination to internalize that and say, that means that there's something wrong with me. That's the key. It doesn't mean that. The opposite of success is learning. If you don't succeed at a relationship, then you can learn from the relationship. The past is something to be learned from and not something to beat yourself over the head with. Sorry for the internet and sound problems. I hope the message got across. Thank you very much. I'm going to have to go now. I've got a lesson coming in. In fact, I think it's already started. I hope this has been useful. When we face lockdown, we've all got these problems. We've all got concerns and worries about our money and our careers and our relationships and everything else. This doesn't mean that it's personal to me. It's happening to everybody. What we do about it, the actions that we can take using bite sizes. If you're going to have to pivot your business to do something else, there are bite sizes that you can work out for yourself. You're resourceful enough, you're clever enough. I'm sorry that change has come, but there we are. It's not the things that happen, it's the meaning that you give those things to you. And it might just mean that you're extremely resourceful. I hope this has been interesting. I'll better go and do my lessons now. Thanks very much for joining, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.